Hello everyone, Fred here. The title says it all. In this installment of TPP Dynamite, I'm going to be ranking all 6 seasons of the CBS/CW superhero TV series Supergirl, going from worst to best. First things first though, if you haven't already, let me encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I post film, book, and TV series reviews. I do opinion pieces on entertainment, news, and affairs. I'm also an author of adult and young adult mystery novels. To date, I've released 3 books, The Women in White, The Lethal List, and most recently, Textbook Murder. They're all on sale now. There are purchase links in my video description below, and I ask you to check them all out. With that in mind, and without further ado, I'm going to just dive right in. Number 6, Season 6. This is the messiest season of Supergirl and possibly one of the messiest of the entire Arrowverse. I know COVID negatively impacted the beginning of this season, but that doesn't excuse an entire year of sloppy to atrocious writing as the show flailed around with no semblance of a sense or purpose, like it was unsure of what it even wanted to be. I think the moment when I truly decided I was done with this season and this series was when the writers randomly made Lena a witch and played that development like it was actually serious. Jon Cryer's Lex Luthor officially crossed the line from campy to ridiculous, which affirmed my own long-held belief that Lex should have been done away with during Crisis on Infinite Earths. He had a terrific arc in Season 4 and worked well in Crisis, but he didn't need to stay in this show much longer than that. He's Superman's archenemy, so painting him as Kara's archenemy was, in my opinion, always doomed to eventually fail. This season's finale didn't feel earned and fell completely flat, etc. I could go on, but I won't. Season 6 was the worst, sad and settled. Number 5, Season 2. This season gave us the first full-fledged Arrowverse appearance of Superman, only to put him down every chance it could, just like Batwoman did Batman, in order to build Supergirl up. I cannot get over how the finale of Season 2 shafted Superman by saying that the less experienced and more tentative Supergirl beat him while he was at full strength and fighting her like he would his worst enemy. Yes, I understand that there are comic books where Supergirl is portrayed as having a better body and more efficient yellow sun metabolization than Superman, but it still didn't feel right for this show. Season 2 retained Season 1's charm, but its move to the CW made for a massive, unnecessary injection of soapy CW melodrama and shamefully over-the-top virtue signaling. The Mon-El storyline was a major example of that, as was the retcon of Alex as a closeted lesbian. Jimmy Olsen's transition into Guardian was a major storytelling misfire. It was so unnecessary and made no sense when you consider that there is no way that Jimmy Olsen should have been able to run a worldwide media empire while also spending every night fighting crime on the streets. Another major misfire was how the writers tanked Jimmy's romance with Kara as an afterthought. I know the fans didn't approve of Jimmy and Kara together or the drama of that relationship in Season 1, but be that as it may, the writers did spend all of Season 1 building up to Kara and Jimmy as a couple, so it felt like a slap in the face for them to just pull out as soon as Season 2 got started and replace Jimmy with Mon-El as Kara's love interest. Number 4, Season 5. This season's pre-crisis half was amazing. The slow boil with Lena wondering what she was doing and whether she'd actually break bad was great. Equally great was Leviathan, the esoteric and ancient villains who even manipulated Lex Luthor himself during Season 4 in order to capitalize on the fallout of his actions in Season 5. The only thing I really didn't like about the first half of this story was Kara's silly bangs. I didn't like them. But then this season's post-crisis half totally ruined the momentum of the pre-crisis half. The Leviathan story transformed from layered and mysterious to boring and confusing. The technology is our worst enemy storyline and its endgame were weak and a general letdown to the Leviathan plot, mostly because that kind of story has been done to death for the past few decades now. Keeping Lex Luthor around as a villain after Crisis on Infinite Earths was a huge mistake. He had a good run in Season 4 and in Crisis, but he's primarily a Superman nemesis. So keeping him around as a recurring mustache-twirly enemy for Kara just wasn't a smart move, especially since most of the iconic storylines for which Lex Luthor is known could not really be adapted for Supergirl and would not have played well in the show even if they had been adapted. I grant that this season deserves a little break because COVID ruined its finale, but the back half of Season 5 was already circling the drain before all of that, so yeah. Number 3. Season 3. The best parts of this season, what really made it work, were the particularly personal stakes that were a part of Supergirl's long-form war with Reign. Reign's story landed so well because Reign essentially began as Samantha Arias, a struggling, isolated single mom just trying to do right by her daughter when no one had done right by her at that age. And Samantha's very slow but very progressive turn into Reign brought an extreme amount of sympathy and emotional depth to the story. This season's action was also next level impressive, with all the massive Kryptonian scale fights, particularly at the midpoint and the last few episodes. This season did have its problems. Samantha's annoying daughter comes to mind, so does Kara's consistent brooding, and of course I really could have done without the love triangle drama of Kara and Mon-El and Saturn Girl, especially since it just felt so wrong on every moral level for Kara to still be pining for Mon-El after she learned that he was married to Saturn Girl. Number 2. Season 1. This season was definitely the purest, brightest, most fun of the lot. Honestly, that's sort of a pattern with many of these Greg Berlanti shows. They start out simple and cool and amazing, and as time goes on, grow more burdened and problematic as they try to become too complex or clever for their own good. But Supergirl Season 1 was a simple and moving story of Supergirl as she attempted to find her place as a superhero in a world that already idolized Superman as the world's greatest crime fighter. Superman was actually treated with respect and was not consistently deconstructed for the sake of establishing Supergirl as his natural better this season. In fact, Superman actually had to save Supergirl on at least one occasion this season. Unlike in later seasons, Kara here was an intrinsically bubbly, hopeful, kind superhero whose personality naturally commanded trust, not an overly dramatic leftist SJW who reasoned through her problems with the fallacious logic of a first grader. The socio-political messaging was there, but it was way more subdued and way more respectful in presentation. Time was spent depicting Kara's double life in that she was shown actually working a job in addition to being a superhero, not just operating as Supergirl 90% of the time. The crossover with The Flash was amazing. I know those crossovers eventually became commonplace, but it was a pretty amazing spectacle at the time, particularly since Supergirl and The Flash were airing on two different networks when the first crossover happened. Put simply, Supergirl Season 1 was fun and slightly campy and not overly complicated, and it was terrific. Just about the only negative was the melodrama of the love triangle between Kara and James's girlfriend, but it still wasn't as awful or unsophisticated as what would come later during the show's time on the CW. I know CBS technically owned the CW, so it's not like an entirely different corporate entity made Supergirl Season 1 than did the later seasons, but the differences were still noticeable regarding how CBS treated the character and the show better. Number 1. Season 4. This season was definitely another one that had big problems. Some of the writing, particularly in the back half, was lazy. like the nonsense about how Supergirl can draw light energy from grass, or how the entire world turns on her when Red Daughter impersonates her to carry out crimes, despite that the world should know that shape-changing aliens and image-inducing technology exist, and should at least question whether Supergirl might have been framed by an imposter. I also did not like this season's generally anti-America, anti-human stance, as aliens were portrayed as the most beaten down, sacrosanct minority, while humans were portrayed as evil just because they were trying to avoid becoming second-class citizens to aliens. I get that the writers were trying to issue a satirical warning about racism and promote the message that all people are equal, which is and was a very good thing. But because of this season's unshakable adherence to the CW's leftist virtue signaling agenda, it felt at times like the writers were almost promoting a reverse racism, in which minorities are viewed as superior to majorities, in which alien rights are superior to human rights, and in which it's wrong for humans to want to protect themselves from the fallout of alien attacks or maintain human control over the literal planet Earth. I also wish Ben Lockwood's character had been used better in the end, when he eventually realized that he and the Sons of Liberty had been manipulated all season by Lex Luthor. It would have been a better and more mature end to Ben's storyline this season to maybe see him calm down just a little bit from his extreme views, help Supergirl stop Lex, become an anti-hero advocate for humans on Earth, and stay around for another season in that capacity, instead of go completely off the rails and ultimately be predictably arrested like any other shallow, raving lunatic. But beyond those flaws, Season 4's writing is the best, most complex of the series. For the first time since Season 1, there was more focus on Kara Danvers as a reporter versus just Supergirl, so when Kara went out as Supergirl, it landed with deeper meaning. Every episode meaningfully moves the story forward, even if it takes a while for the viewer to understand how. Season 4 was one of the very few occasions on which this show did a good job of weaving real-world socio-political themes into the superhero medium in a smart and thought-provoking way. Its use of storylines surrounding anti-alien xenophobia and anti-alien hate groups worked as amazing satire to fuel discussions of real-world racism and extremist border control tendencies. Ben Lockwood and the Sons of Liberty were fantastic adversaries. Like any good villain should, they made very good points. The only thing that really made them villains was the extremist, murderous, racist way in which they fought for their points. Seriously, I don't think they were wrong in their feelings that humans occupied the planet Earth first and shouldn't have to be subject to legislation allowing aliens to visit Earth without boundaries and slowly take over Earth's infrastructure with their own technology and ideology. Their desire to maintain human supremacy on their own planet is, in its own way, even a heroic thing. Then Season 4 just took the Sons of Liberty plotline to the next level with the amazing reveal that they'd actually been pawns for Lex Luthor the entire time. The Lex Luthor storyline of the last 7 episodes worked wonders for Season 4's back half, leading to this show's best ever season finale. This season to me was very close in quality to Season 1. I flip-flopped for quite a while, even during filming of this video, between which one I liked better between Season 4 and Season 1. But ultimately, Season 4 wins because its overall narrative is much deeper, more focused, more complex, and more poignant than Season 1's. Alright, so there you have it, all 6 seasons of Supergirl ranked from worst to best. At any rate, that's just my opinion. Let me know yours. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Are your feelings more complex? Sound off in the comments below. Meanwhile, if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, click subscribe, ring that bell, and hey, follow me on social media as well. So long.